Hi, and welcome to a new edition of For Your Health. I'm your host, Jennifer Harrell, and I'm excited to have two guests with me in this first half. We are here with Stacy and Liz, and we're here to talk about all things mental health awareness, because if you didn't know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and this year's theme is We All Have Mental Health. And that couldn't be more true of a statement. So without further ado, Stacy, tell us about yourself and how you got involved with the Mental Health Association of Cleveland County.
Yeah, thank you. I've been with MHA for almost 10 years in a few different roles. Right now, I'm focused on our Compeer program. I'm the Compeer and Special Programs Manager. So my job is to receive referrals from the community for youth, adults, and seniors who have some sort of mental health concern, and we match them with very well screened and trained volunteers, and they enjoy supportive friendship out in the community. So that's my main focus right now.
I love that. Gosh. All right. Now, how about you, Liz?
So I'm the Community Outreach and Youth Programs Coordinator.
Okay.
So I do a lot of different things kind of in the county, talking to people about what we do. I work a lot with our youth program, doing like activities and interacting with like the Boys and Girls Club and schools to kind of share about Compeer, but also about just different resources that we have in the community. Yeah.
Which is probably more than people realize, I would dare to imagine. So without further ado, who wants to tell us about this year's theme and how we're going to dive into that? Because I do love the fact that they're stating we all have mental health. You're going to fight over it? I'm kidding.
Well, this year's theme, we've always kind of tried to honor Mental Health Awareness Month, you know, through social media and talking to people about it. But this year we just kind of wanted to make it a bigger event to try to reach as many people as possible. We wanted to reach as many businesses as possible and agencies to kind of introduce them to us.
Right.
But also share resources in the county as well. We have like a huge guide that we share with people that will tell them who you can contact for help and resources. And then for specifically the theme, we wanted to address stigma because it's an ongoing issue. A lot of people don't think that they have mental health, just at the baseline, don't think that mental health is something that will impact them or does impact them. So it's just trying to share that information that we all have mental health and we have these things that will affect us throughout our life.
And before I forget, when you refer to that guide that you just mentioned, is that something that they can find on a website, or do they need to come to your building and you give them the guide? How does someone access this guide?
I mean, someone could email me and I would be happy to forward it to them, but there's also, actually Drug Free CC is working on making it accessible also. So, and that Drug Free CC is through the Cleveland County Health Department.
Okay, and on the screen it says Cleveland County, and I missed it, so sorry about that. But there it is again, Cleveland County MHA.org, so they can get to the resources that way. Okay, and before we came on air, we talked about the different things regarding mental health, and I think one that most people probably think about is the winter blues, or maybe I do, because I hear more about that through what I do for a living, is people suffering with those winter blues and seasonal issues. So let's dive into that. It's spring. How can we help people get through? We just said it's May. It's a hard month for teachers and students and parents. How do we get through and survive the end of the school year?
Well, I feel like it's kind of a hard question for us to always answer, because there's a lot of things that help people, like different things will help different people, and different resources are going to be helpful to different people. And so what we can do is connect people to resources, help them find what might fit for them. But also one thing that we're trying to do is just provide activities, places for people to go that's kind of like a third place that isn't, you know, work or home or school, to hang out with people who are open to mental health. And we may not always be talking about mental health specifically, but that it's a space where you could, if you wanted to, and do activities that aren't high pressure and are just meant to be enjoyable with people.
Right. So Stacy, can you tell us about the events that are still coming up this month?
Yeah. So we're about halfway into the month-long celebration. We had a kickoff event at the farmers market this past Saturday, and a button making activity at the library yesterday with mental health themed messages. That was really fun. And so next week, Monday, we're having an opening reception for the Art of Mind exhibit that's here at CCC. and that's open to the public. It starts at 3:30.
Awesome.
And we have some really great artists who are contributing, just exploring the diverse experiences of mental health and how they're related to creative expression. So,
Oh, that's fun.
yeah, it's really exciting. We also have, and Liz has organized a lot of these events. We're having a storytellers event at Got Books.
Okay.
That's the last Friday in May. Is that May 24th? And so we're inviting participants who will be sharing stories, songs, poetry to share their personal kind of journey with mental health with a focus on healing and hope and just kind of spreading the message that, no matter what you're dealing with, we can get through that together as a community. So we're really excited for those upcoming events
I
as
love
well.
that.
Yeah.
So if anyone at home is watching or watching online and they can't make it to either one of these events, and they dial the number that's been at the bottom of the screen or they go to your website, what is a way that you can guide someone? I mean, what are some tips and advice that you can give us to take the first step to getting help?
Yeah, well, like Liz was saying, I think connecting with the community resources is usually the first step. And we do a lot of information and referrals with MHA. So the mental health system is super complex and
Right.
always changing, and plenty of gaps in it. So a big part of our role is to help connect folks and to address those gaps as well. So anyone can call our number and we can talk directly to try and connect you with information and referrals to clinical providers.
Can you give us an example of that if someone was to call today? Not to put you on the spot, like how
Yeah.
exactly you connect them if someone calls. I mean,
Well-
y'all are the experts, so this is where I'm going to take your lead. What's something that you've directed to someone to this week?
Yeah, like Liz was saying, it's specific to the individual, but usually you have to take into account insurance
Okay.
and things like that. So we can we can use our guide to kind of talk through that and find out what kind of support is needed, what insurance is accessible, but we can also connect to community-based resources like our Compeer program. If somebody is just needing social support, that's a community-based program.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And what if someone watching this doesn't have insurance and once again they're like, oh, because I mean, we all know it happens. It doesn't matter if it's mental health, if it's dental, if it's vision, if they don't have insurance. And what are people supposed to do?
I feel like it's really kind of complex, and our guide does have resources that are like sliding scale or no or underinsured
Okay.
options, and we recognize that those are limited. There are crisis resources for people that are in need of immediate support, like the National 988 number is a crisis and suicide hotline.
Okay.
And then there is also resources through partners that does crisis support. And if you're uninsured, there are support systems like in our community that are in
Okay.
place, like support groups filled with people who have similar lived experiences. And while it may not be the same as like a therapist, it can be relieving to be with a group of people that understand something that you're going through.
And what was that national number again that someone dials if they're in a crisis or having an emergency?
988.
And that's all they have to dial? 988. Okay, so not 911, my friends, but 988. Spread the news. We need those buttons everywhere for people.
We have some.
You have some. Okay, perfect. Like, wait, because I feel like there's so many numbers now that you can call for whatever reason. So we need to have all those. Okay, let's, so we talked about spring and summer, or not summer, but other ways. I put you on the spot. But what are some ways that y'all give tips? I'm assuming you kind of help people get through without a therapist. Some blues. I know that's not always the winter blues. Sometimes we just have the blues. What are some ways and advice we can give people to get through that difficult point in their life?
I think it does depend on what's like accessible to them, because there is so much that goes into mental health that we don't always think of right away. So access to transportation and access to walking, like places that you can walk that are safe to walk at. So those are just kind of like some examples where you can just easily go. Like some people will go for a walk to help support maybe being outside. And being with nature can help you feel more connected to yourself and to
Right.
your body. So there's a lot of advice that suggests like bilateral movement can be really supportive, but I also want to recognize that not everybody has access to walking paths or that type of, or maybe they just don't have the mobility to do stuff like that. And so CompHere is a good example where we try to meet people's needs, where we connect them with someone who is supportive and can meet with them places or call them and offer support that way. Other things that we suggest is just trying to connect with your community and the things you enjoy. So finding a group of people that love to do art together or love to read books. Like we run a book club once a month, and we are often just talking about the books that we're reading, and it can really fulfill that social gap that you may experience. Yeah.
So Stacy, tell us more about, and I hope I'm saying it,
CompHere, yeah.
So spell that.
COMPEER.
Okay, so give us a little bit more detail since y'all referred to that several times.
Yeah, so CompHere is an international evidence-based program. It started back in the 70s in New York as an adopt a patient. It was just trying to get folks who were inpatient some outside support and just friendship. So it's changed over the decades, and now it's really a community-based support serving youth, adults, and seniors, where we match volunteers with folks who are referred by their provider, and they spend at least about usually like one meeting a week for at least a year, just providing that support, because so often the issue is that we feel alone. And so even with numbers like 988, a lot of times people might need to call that number just because they need to talk to somebody. They feel really alone. So CompHere really fills that gap and also tries to get folks out into the community so that even after their CompHere friendship is officially closed, they have all these new connections and safe spaces where they feel like they can connect.
That's really incredible.
Yeah.
So is that something maybe that the Mental Health Association needs more volunteers? Like if somebody watches this and hears this and wants to be that person that helps someone, how do they volunteer or sign up?
Yeah, absolutely. We are a volunteer-driven organization for sure. And so CompHere is a direct service volunteer role. We have a few direct service roles. We also deliver monthly friendship bags for the first year of for our adults and seniors once they're referred to CompHere. So we have delivery drivers, we have one-to-one friends for adults and seniors. We have youth mentors that meet in after-school care.
Makes me think of Big Brother, Big Sister.
It's similar to that.
A lunch buddy or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Well, I've lived here over 20 years and never heard of this program, so that's pretty remarkable. So
yeah, and we have other volunteer opportunities as well.
Okay.
We have, we do a lot of special events. We have a Healing with Nature program where we're focused on community gardens right now. So yeah, all that is on our website.
Okay, so that's what I say. So anybody at home watching or watching online can call that number or get on your website and find out how to volunteer and learn how to be of help. And if there's one last thing that either one of you want to say about reducing the stigma about mental health awareness, what would you like to tell our viewers?
I think one message we've been sharing a lot is just talk to your friends about mental health. Like, don't be afraid to talk to the people in your life, either about what they're going through or what you're going through, because I think a lot of times people feel like they can't share these things, or that they'll be a burden to somebody, or that people in their lives won't understand. And something that we're realizing is that the more you talk about mental health, the more, even if someone isn't sharing that same lived experience, may be able to just be a sounding board for support, or just maybe they do understand and they've been secretly dealing with something too, and now y'all can get through it together. And so that's a big thing that we're trying. It's on a lot of our messaging. It's on all of the buttons that we're trying to make, is just say, like, talk to your friends.
I love that. I love that. All right, well, for those of you at home, I hope you learned something new this half. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
She gets her hair from her mom, her eyes from her dad, and her drugs from her home medicine cabinet. Fact: more people die from drug overdoses than from car crashes or gun violence. And over 50% of those deaths are from prescription drugs. Prescription drug abuse is preventable. 1. Secure and take regular inventory of our medications. 2. Dispose of unused or expired medications. 3. Share this message with others. Be aware, don't share, lock your meds.
Chef Paul Prudhomme once said, "You don't need a silver fork to eat good food." Well, on Cleveland County Kitchen, we don't have a silver fork, but we sure do serve up lots of good food. Hi, I'm Deborah Blanton. I hope you'll join me for the next Cleveland County Kitchen. Each month, we offer a complete farm-to-table experience. We visit local growers, we learn about nutrition, and wrap things up with wonderful meals prepared by our guest chefs. It's a lot of fun. I hope you'll join me for the next Cleveland County Kitchen.
Hi, welcome back to the second half of For Your Health. I'm your host, Jennifer Harrell, and with me this half is Jessica Crawford. She's with the Safe Kids Coalition, and we're here to talk about all things water safety. It's the perfect time to talk about it because Memorial Day will be here before you know it, which we all know is the unofficial start to summer. My kids have already been swimming in the lake. Jessica says she already knows people have been swimming in the pools. So without further ado, Jessica, tell us like the number one thing you tell people about water safety.
So the number one tip I tell anybody is to never swim alone.
Perfect. Doesn't matter their age either, does it?
Correct. So no matter if they're an avid swimmer or if they have swum their whole life, it is never safe to swim alone. So we always want people to have a swimming partner or a swimming buddy with them anytime they enter the water.
That makes me think of everybody that likes to walk alone or run alone. Don't do it alone. Yes. Okay. So we want to talk about water safety at home first, since a lot of people are going to be opening up your pools sooner rather than later, I would think, for Memorial Day. So tell us about that. Don't leave kids alone around water. Tell us about why. We know why, but we got to talk about it.
It's always, I remind people that our brains are sponges and sometimes things leak out, so you have to re-nourish them. And so I just like to encourage people to remember that drownings are the number one leading cause for children to die between the ages of 1 to 4.
Wow.
They're the third leading cause of death of all children. And so you can drown in less than an inch of water. And people think that an inch, but it's like just the very tip of your finger. It's not a lot of water. So that's why we encourage children to never be left alone or to be in supervision of younger siblings or people that are not experienced on how to be safe around water. So.
But with you saying that, that's not just pool safety then.
Correct.
Okay, so let's dive into that about home safety for our younger children. Let's talk about, I just saw a picture about closed lids indoors, and it's a picture of a commode.
Absolutely. So as kids get curious, and there have been instances where children will look into the toilet that's full of water, and they may go in head first, and then they can't get out. So we encourage, safety locks, or to just make sure that the bathroom doors are closed. That if they give anyone a bath, the dog or the children, that they drain the tub immediately.
Okay.
So that's very important. Also around the house, if we wash our cars, if we leave standing buckets of water for any reason, that we dump those out, or even just like a little splash pool for your dog. If they're not actively using it, we want you to dump the water and then keep it upside down so that no one can have access to that water.
And I think we just don't think about those things. I mean, not until I saw that picture did I think about a toilet or a commode. Okay, all right. Well, let's get back to pool water safety, if that's okay. And we talked about, too, how I feel as though some people might become complacent because, we have a pool at home, they swim all the time. Tell us a little bit more about that and how we probably shouldn't be complacent.
Yes, so again, we just want to encourage people to make sure that their pools are covered during off season, that they have a hard cover. So as people go through the summer and they start looking for that, we want them to put hard covers over the pool. Some people think that any cover is safe. That's not necessarily the correct answer. We also encourage people to have fences put up. Most homeowners insurance will require that, but even above ground pools need to have fencing with an alarm on the lock. There are also these really awesome tools that are pool alarms, where it's just like a bracelet or an anklet that you could put on small children, where if they were to get into the water, it would alarm somebody. Or set the detectors for your alarm system, so if the door's open or the window's open, that you are alerted, hey, somebody's outside. It kind of does become second knowledge, especially if your children are used to swimming or if you've had them trained in swimming. But if you have friends or if you have other friends' children over, that's when it kind of, they're not used to it. So those are the ones that are probably going to be more at risk.
Right.
Or if their environment has changed, if they're now at a grandparent's house who has a pool that they're not used to having little ones around frequently, or on spring break or vacation, those are the ones that need to really kind of have a high alert and remind each other, check the pool, check the kids, and everybody to be on.
That is a great point. And I had no idea about the bracelet. So is this a relatively new thing?
It is pretty new.
Okay.
There's all kinds of different ones out there, and so I can't really validate which one would be the best, but
Yeah.
there are several different ones that
Okay.
could help with saving a life if they were to get into the water.
Okay. And I think probably one of the hardest questions for parents is, what's SWIMMY? What water flotation device do I get my 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old? So what advice can you give us as parents as to the safest flotation device?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked that question. It's one of my favorites. So there are lots of things that are on the market that look really fun and are really, so the most important thing is to encourage parents, no matter what device that you give your child, that you are within an arm's reach of that child.
Okay.
But what we recommend, Safe Kids Worldwide and the American Academy of Pediatrics, are that you look to make sure that any swimming device is stamped with the Coast Guard seal of approval. So the little blow up arms, those are not safe, and they could, if one popped, they're underwater.
Right.
Also, the ones that just clip around their chest, that kind of gives them a false security of learning to swim. So just make sure that you're looking at it to make sure that the life jacket itself is Coast Guard approved.
Coast Guard approved. Okay. And we can look that up online to make sure. Or is there a certain emblem like a anchor or cross?
It will
for Red Cross?
literally have a stamp
Okay.
that says Coast Guard approved life jacket.
Love
So,
it. Okay, that's great information. And on here it talks about choose a water watcher, and I know that goes along with always having a buddy, but tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, so I don't know if you've ever been to a party or a family get together and you get to talking to people, and then all of a sudden we're like, where are the kids? What are they doing? And that's usually just because people are people. We want to fellowship and have fun together. So what we suggest is that you designate a water watcher, someone whose sole responsibility is to keep their eyes on the water.
Love it.
And so you can switch that around and say, hey, for 15 minutes it's going to be Jessica. In 15 more minutes it will be Jennifer's turn. And there is also a template where you can you can print it for free, no purchase required, from safekids.org for a water watcher tag. So you could designate an older teenager or someone that is capable of swimming.
Fancy.
It's pretty neat. You give them that tag, they don't mind the 15 minutes, you know.
I love it.
So-
That's awesome. And then how important is it I think it's pretty important because we live on the water. So let's talk about learning how to swim.
Yes, that is a huge recommendation. And our county is so great because all of our Cleveland County kids receive swimming lessons through the YMCA during their 2nd grade year. We also have the
forgot
Shelby.
about that.
Yes, they're amazing. Shelby City Pool and the YMCA offer swimming lessons, so they're great resources and great partners for Safe Kids. But those are huge. We really, really support that any age, not just kids, but even older people do get swimming lessons if they're going to be around any water, home or lakes, rivers, any of that stuff.
So what's the difference between swimming lessons and water survival?
Yes, so water survival is just really kind of doggy paddling, learning how to float on your back and to get to the edge. Swimming lessons are going to teach you more about the strokes and the rowing and how to manipulate different types of water. So the basics, what you want your child to do is to be able to get into the water and get themselves back up to the surface, to be able to paddle and doggy paddle enough to maintain their airway. And so swimming lessons will get them further into that and give them some more skills.
And then we have swimming pool versus open water. So summer's coming, ocean, lake, swimming pool. Let's talk about there is a big difference between open water and a swimming pool. So let's talk about that.
There is. So the open water has more risk related to that. So we really want to encourage people, whether it is a river, a beach, a creek, a lake, that you are aware of what you're getting into. So we don't encourage people to dive into open water because you don't know what's under there. So what we encourage is for people to go in feet first, to slowly get in. That way, if there's rocks or if there's anything down there, they can ease into it. Also, the temperature is not well controlled. So if you were to get into the water and it shock your body, it could cause you to go into shock. So you want to slowly ease into the water. You also want to be around people. But if you're with other people and they're starting to struggle, we use the phrase throw, don't go. And that can be for swimming pools or open water. So you could use a pool noodle, a towel, anything to help somebody, because you do not want to go into an area that's non-controlled, unless you're a lifeguard, of course. But you want to throw that object and then pull the person to you instead of going in, because they could pull you under with them.
Right. That's great. I haven't heard that phrase either, so I'll have to remember that. So again, the pool noodle, a towel, or some type of flotation device. Throw, don't go. Okay, I love that. And that's a great segue into basic water rescue and CPR skills. What do we recommend the older you get that you should know if you're around water a lot?
Yes, so that's huge. You should look for CPR training to be able to offer that if somebody were to experience a drowning. So you also want to be able to watch to see the signs. If you see somebody go down and you don't see them come back up, you recognize that that's an issue. But also if you see someone bobbing over and over and over, sometimes they may have enough water in their lungs they can't call for help. So if you see somebody flailing around, they may be in a panic. So you want to go ahead and get them some help.
Okay. And what have we not talked about water safety? Because we've covered the basis, but if there's some things that you want to tell, I mean, I think too, our teenagers and our young adults, they're complacent. I've got this, I can swim, I'm young, I'm invincible. So what are some tips you have for our young folks?
So some tips is that we're never too old to use a life jacket. So again, no matter how avid of a swimmer you are, especially if you're in open water, we have rivers around here that are pretty dangerous. They can, especially with all this rain.
Yes.
Everybody wants to cool off. I am a water bug. I love water, but it can be really dangerous to anybody. So I just want to encourage people not to be ashamed, not to feel like there's anything, but you can actually relax and enjoy yourself. If you're able to use a life jacket or get to some place where it's not above your knees and you can just rest and, you know, enjoy the water. But we also want to encourage people to wear water shoes so that their feet don't get messed up and then they're having issues catching their footing. So if they're in open water, we really suggest those things.
Okay, I love that. And how young do you recommend that we start swim lessons?
So that really is per parent discretion, but the younger the better. There are some pretty advanced classes that I don't know that we have any local that do them, I mean, up 6 months or older.
Wow.
But as soon as the swimming, different places, some people will take them as young as 4 years old, some will do 2 years old, so the earlier the better.
Awesome, I love it. Did we leave anything out, Jessica?
I don't think so. I think we have saturated it, literally.
I love it. I love it. So, folks at home, I hope you enjoyed this information we just provided. Once again, I learned something new every single time. Jessica, thank you for joining us. And those of you at home, we look forward to seeing you next month.